Let me mention we are here on behalf of the Franklin County Democratic Party. I was the chair of the party for 2 years, but when we did our reorganization on April 1st, I wanted to step down. I really wanted to spend more time to helping people with insurance, because it's going to get harder. We're going to have to double down helping people, because our insurance coverage is going to be adversely affected, I'm afraid. Anyway, our chair is now Bob Zimmerman, and we wanted him to be here this morning, but he teaches a class at Motlow. He's retired, but he teaches a class, and he couldn't be here. So I'm glad we've got Mindy Melton to come and help me out this morning, along with Karen. I want to mention those of you that are Democrats or who would like to go to a Democratic function. I want to mention 2 or 3 functions we have coming up statewide on April the 29th. That's on a Saturday in Murfreesboro. There is a statewide Democratic conference. It's an all-day thing, like from 9 o'clock in the morning to 8 at night. You get 2 meals and get to mix and mingle with Democrats across the state. It's a fun thing. I did it 2 years ago, and the registration cost is $45. And I'll give you my phone number. I'll give it to you right now, and I'll give it to you more later in case you don't get it. You can call me if you're interested in attending this, and I'll give you more information. My number is 962-4982. And you just call me, and I'll give you the information and tell you where to go on the internet to find the registration information. And that's April 29th. All Democrats invited, or if you think you'd like to be a Democrat, you're welcome to come. It's a statewide Democratic conference. Then on May the 19th is a day that we look forward to every year. It's Jackson Day dinner. The keynote speaker is Senator Amy Klobuchar. I believe she's from Minnesota. They have it headed up, 3-star Jackson Day dinner. And this is always a special event for Democrats. It's a fundraising thing. You'll see from the cost of the tickets. The tickets, our party will be getting a table for 10. And at that table for 10, tickets will be discounted to $125 each. If you just go on your own, don't get a place at the table, it's $150. So again, call me. This is really a fun event, a good time event for Democrats. It will be at, I didn't tell you where it is, the Creative Arts Building at the State Fairgrounds in Nashville. That's May the 19th at 7 p.m. So that's a special occasion. I went last year and really enjoyed it. We even went about 3 weeks after I had knee surgery. I think I would have enjoyed it more had it been more weeks. But anyway, it was great. I enjoyed it. On May the 20th at 9:30 a.m. is our Franklin County Democratic Party meeting. In the morning. This will be I'm reading a note here. This will be our first meeting with our new slate of officers, and at a different time. We've changed. We were having our meetings on a Monday evening, and we're changing it to Saturday. Saturday, it's hard to get a date that suits everyone. But anyway, Saturday, May the 20th at 9:30. Come to that. Bob Zimmerman is the chair. Vice chair is Amanda Powers. Secretary is
I would have just something lost in town, but there was a computer.
Well, I bet she's been doing this for some time, and she's great. Treasurer is Diane Hand, who also is a re-elected officer. She does a great job as well.
What are you recording?
I believe.
Oh, it's a radio show.
That gets
it's Madeline. She works here.
Okay, well,
yeah, I'll get it to her. Thanks.
Again,
where was it?
My
Just
phone
out in the hall?
number is 962
Oh, okay.
4982.
All right, I'll send her an email right now.
And I'll let you know how to register for these events. And also, I still have people with insurance Care,
Where do you
Medicaid,
go to a
vacations.
classroom building when you're drunk?
the ACA.
Their
They're
Netflix is
referring
pulled up on
mostly
like
now
the computers downstairs.
to Obamacare
And,
as the ACA, the
Are
Affordable
they
Care
still
Act.
charged? Are they still?
And so that's what
Are they
I'll be
still signed in?
referring to it as.
We
So
can find out who the
just
culprit
call me
was.
if
Well,
you need
those
any
doors
help.
are
I've
open
gotten some
until-
recent
okay.
information
No, I
this
know. Yeah.
So,
latest
yeah, but you're
yesterday
right, if they use the key scan again.
regarding
but-
Medicaid
Oh,
that's why I've been walking
provisions.
around and seeing
So
no major
Mindy-
damage done, I hope.
Mindy Melton from Sewanee is here. She's done this before, and so you jump in with whatever you have for us this morning.
Well, there's so many things and they all come together. Nancy, you know that. Trying to stick here locally. And the economy. I think that's everyone's biggest concern. Well, we all have a lot of big concerns, but when it comes down to it, on common sense, it's everyday matters about what affects each and every one of us. And one thing I think that's bothered me, I know I was here and I talked about the payday lenders, and I think that has a lot to do with the economy. Last night, I took the boys at Swanee Union Theater on Wednesday nights. They have a free movie, and last night was The Life of Brian, Monty Python, and I was all excited about that because, blessed are the cheesemakers. But the one thing, when they were planning their rebellion, and this kind of struck with me, they're sitting in there, what were they? I can't even keep up with all their names because it's the thing, it's all these different groups trying to rebel against the Romans. And, but they're like, oh, well, what have the Romans ever done for us? And then someone brought up, well, actually, the aqueduct. And they're like, oh, well, yes, the aqueduct. But besides that, why do we need the Romans? And it went from the aqueduct to the sewage system to, let's see, what else was on there? Roads, public bathhouses, and peace. And it's kind of weird, when you think about it. But infrastructure. It all comes back to infrastructure. And the last time I was here and I was talking about payday lenders, in the state of Tennessee, with these little payday lenders, and we talked about this, how people, they go borrow $100 or $200 because they're desperate, and they end up paying back like $600 before it's over with. And these are people that don't have money to begin with. That money, otherwise, if they weren't caught in these usury, traps where, they get desperate, but there is, it seems like a simple solution. And then they get caught in these, this endless cycle of this debt, of these payments due to a lack of usury laws in Tennessee. Otherwise, if this wasn't available to them and they weren't spending all this money on fees, these same people that need to borrow this kind of money, they're not going to Murfreesboro or anywhere else, to go shopping. They're shopping right here, in their local county. So they would be buying at the corner store, and, all that money would stay here in the county. When I originally did that, and did the research, it generates $4 million worth of fees in the state of Tennessee alone each year. And you take those $4 million worth of fees, and let's do them at 9.25% sales tax. That's $37 million worth of sales tax. So basically, it's $37 million worth of revenue taken out of our infrastructure every year at the cost of the poorest people we have in our communities. Now, to me, that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that the county, local, and state government would allow that to keep happening. And you wonder, and you go, well, they're providing jobs. Let's see. So they rent a building, and they have, a couple of people employed, probably a little, if not minimum wage, a little bit over to do the paperwork. But when you look at the other side of it, it's just absolutely amazing. And we all, I think, agree that our infrastructure, especially if you look here in the state, like Nashville, 1,500 people a month are moving into Nashville, and there's no mass transit. And you can go down to Atlanta and look at, the incident they had with I-85. Now, I-85 is going to be closed for 6 months. You have a whole bridge that just caught on fire and, fell into, the Netherlands, and in a city that was already struggling with, their traffic issues. But the one positive thing I read about that was that it had increased the use of mass transit. Now, I don't know if you've ever been on the subway or, of course, we just call it the MARTA, but I have a friend that lives down there. My son and I went, and we were going, or both of my sons, she lives right around the corner from the MARTA station in Decatur, and we decided to go see Monster Jam. So the Georgia Dome, we got on this train for a few dollars, and we rode all the way to the front door of the Georgia Dome. We get off, we went, and we saw our event, which was absolutely fun. And then we get back on the train, and, we were running a little bit late at Atlanta traffic getting in there. We didn't have time to eat dinner beforehand. So afterwards, I'm like, well, where's a good place to go eat dinner? Well, we get off the train at the Decatur station, and we walk right outside of the station, and there's all these nice little cafes and restaurants. We had a nice late dinner, got back on the train, right back to her house. But when we talk about infrastructure and we talk about these great things, it's not only people using it, but it's also the funding of building it and, the upkeep. Obviously, we look at Nashville and how quickly it's growing. I mean, I don't know the last time you guys were in Nashville in a 5 o'clock traffic, but it's almost impossible. And you look at all those taillights and everything else, and you're like, where are all these people going? A friend of mine just made a trip, and I think Baltimore. She got to Baltimore, and she said, oh my God, the people. There were so many people. And I guess when she got out of the airport, and she did take a shuttle to wherever she was going. I think it was somewhere in New Hampshire. I can't remember all the details. We were just chatting yesterday. But she said what would normally be, a 10 or 15-minute trip took about 45 minutes. So we can talk about roads, we can talk about infrastructure, but it all kind of ties in. You look at Flint, Michigan, and the water. But until we start taking care of these things, which does create jobs, you go back to the Depression.
And you would think it could be done, Mindy, infrastructure, because I keep hearing that infrastructure is something that Democrats and Republicans both support.
Well, except we have this thing, and and that was something else I was going to get into, because my next thing that's really been bothering me is the veterans. But what's happening now in our politics is, instead of taking these bipartisan issues, it's sort of like, well, you introduced it, so I'm against it. But and this is somewhere this has got to stop, and we've got to start working together on the things that we know are important. And even with infrastructure, we can agree on it. But if we keep giving huge corporations and everyone else all these tax breaks, there's no money for it.
Right, and I'll say something. I hate to be so negative on the other party, but just watch. I say watch these bills they promote and they pass. For instance, health care, tax breaks for the wealthy. The bill that was first introduced and of course we know didn't they pulled it actually. I started to say it didn't pass, but they pulled it because they didn't have the Republicans didn't have enough votes. They couldn't agree themselves, and we won't get into that. But I'll mention since I mentioned health care. Just the last couple of days, and in fact this morning, I read an article online that came from NPR and the Kaiser Foundation that basically says, watch out, they're going to be doing something soon to our healthcare system. And a couple of things that mentioned were that they are, they say that it's dead, but yet there are rumblings that they are going to bring back something. If nothing else, just amend, do something to amend and damage and devastate our ACA. And what the Kaiser Foundation says that they may well do is shorten the enrollment time that people have to enroll from 3 months to about 6 weeks. Get rid of a lot of the special enrollment periods that people have now. For instance, if you move, if you get married, if you have a child, you get divorced, have a change of life event, you get a 60-day special enrollment period outside of the regular enrollment period. They're going to be doing away with some of those. In other words, they'll really cut back on the accessibility, the availability that people will have to insurance. And I noticed one thing again, some of these people, all of them, I don't think they understand, Mindy, what it means to be poor.
They don't have a clue.
They don't have a clue. One of the cruel things in what I read that they'll probably do is if someone has lost their coverage because they haven't paid their premiums, they've lost their job maybe, have been not been covered or and couldn't pay their premiums, they have to pay those premiums before they can be reinsured again. Now they've lost their job, and the people I deal with are people who have lost their job. They don't have money to go out and buy insurance except on the marketplace. And just how think
Well,
how
wait a minute.
cruel that is.
If you don't pay your premium, you lose your insurance. But what did you sign a contract that you're going to pay it for the entire year? You're going to have to explain that to me.
This is one of the provisions that they may well put in a new plan or a new amendment that the Republicans will put forward soon. I mean,
And we're on Common Sense Matters, and most people are going to look and go, why can't I enroll in insurance on any given day? Now, if you need car insurance, what do? You call up your, I have State Farm, and
right.
I'm sorry, but I've had them for many years, and I call them up and say, well, I'm buying this vehicle, or, I'm moving, maybe it's rental insurance, or I'm buying this house, and you get your policy. So this idea, and like you said, it is limiting access to, what should be one of our most fundamental, basic human rights.
Exactly. But now I understand why they've limited it to specific enrollment periods, because it would be very expensive to insurance companies if people could, knowing they had surgery coming up, knowing, I have to have knee surgery, so I'm going to go sign up for insurance right quick. And you can't do that unless you're in an open enrollment period, or you have one of these change of life circumstances, like moved, got out of jail. People that get out of jail, leave jail within 60 days, have a special enrollment period. Of course, it doesn't help them all that much because they come out of jail usually with no job, no money, unless there's some family help there. And of course, that gets into another really issue of mine that is really so frustrating and heartbreaking, and that is Tennessee needs to expand Medicaid so the folks would have insurance. And I read this morning or last night, there's a long article, and getting on the jail. If nothing else, I don't understand why the people that are opposed to expanding Medicaid and everybody having insurance would feel that way. Let me just read just a little bit.
Can I interject here for a moment?
Yeah.
You guys are hearing you on the radio, but I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Nancy. She comes in with all this paperwork, but right now she has got a page from, I think that's the Tennessean.
It's the Tennessean.
The Tennessean.
It was Sunday, April 2nd. I'm sure everybody that got the Sunday Tennessean.
But it amazes me because she's made notes, she's got asterisks, she's highlighted. Yes, Nancy knows what she keeps up.
I can't remember all this stuff that I read those, so that's why I had to highlight it and bring it. But anyway, this article, we've heard of it, just the devastating effects of the opioid abuse or drug abuse. Well, this says actually OxyContin. That's
that is a very strong opioid.
Okay, but anyway, I won't read all this because it's what we know already. It gets into the subject of access to insurance to treat people to treat people that are addicted. And then I'm reading from the article now. Then there's the issue of access. So many people afflicted by addiction do not have or cannot afford insurance to seek and complete treatment. This speaks to the broader failure of Tennessee lawmakers not to expand health insurance coverage to 400,000 working poor individuals over the last 2 years, and Congress' failure in March to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. The trouble is there are people who reap the consequences of this inaction. expanding Medicaid wholly or even piecemeal to veterans. There are veterans included in this group of 400,000. Now, you'll hear people argue with the 400,000 and say, well, I've seen it as 280,000. What they say is there are 400,000 Tennesseans out there without access to insurance, but it's estimated that 280,000 would sign up for Medicaid if they would expand it.
Over half.
Yeah, right.
Over half,
That's
yes.
where the 280,000 comes in.
And I'd like to go ahead and I'm going to interject this again.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this gets back to you. I know a lot of people may be intimidated by computers or the system because a lot of times anything to do with the government or bureaucracy it tends to get frustrating and you get very confused. But if one thing I've learned from the ACA and signing up, it's one of the easiest processes in the world. If you want to get help, that's fine, but just know as long as you have your basic information that it is super easy. I helped my brother sign up, and that was the thing. He went for a couple of years without insurance because he was intimidated by the process, afraid that, it would be one of those things that sometimes, like I said, when you're dealing with a government or a bureaucracy, that it can be very frustrating. So don't be afraid of signing up or seeking help if you are.
And many of the people that I help are people that said, I went online and it said it would cost me $500 or $600. And I would ask them, I said, well, what did you put in as your income? And unless you put in the exact right information, for instance, for one person, it's around $12,000 per year that you have to have as estimated income. If you put in less than that, even $5 less, I reckon, it shows that you're not entitled to the tax credits and you get this humongous amount. And there are many people out there, Mindy and Karen, that still don't have computers, don't use a computer, and that again, Tennessee, I hate to say it, but Tennessee did a cruel thing, and to me, still are, when on January the 1st, 2014, when the ACA became effective and people had to go online and sign up for insurance, the Tennessee administration was so opposed to President Obama and Obamacare that they were the only state in the Union, in our United States, that on that same time, on December 31st, laid off their Department of Human Services employees that help people with Medicaid. Before January the 1st, when the ACA came into effect, people wanting to apply for TennCare, Medicaid, could go into the office out here and get personal help. You can't do that. It threw thousands of people that needed Medicaid on Medicaid. And Tennessee, to this day, I talked to a lady just this week that I believe tried to go out. She needed help with a Medicaid problem. Went out to our local human services, asked for help. Sorry, you'll have to go online. They don't. And Tennessee is still, I don't understand, folks, I don't understand it. How can you be that cruel to sick, low-income people?
Well, and that seems to be, there's the resounding theme, and there's all of this negative stigma that it's your own fault, and
Exactly.
you're just looking for a handout and all these things. But let's look at going back to that opioid addiction, which is a huge problem, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier with, when I was talking about the payday lenders. You look right here in Franklin County now. I'm going to state something that most people don't talk about. I think the sheriff's office would agree with me. But when I drive down the boulevard and see a huge billboard against pill mills, and then a brand new pain clinic opened up, right below it. This is big business. And that goes. It all ties in together. These people, and it's a lack of insurance. And the lack of insurance says, the wealthier people, they can have corrective surgeries. Other people go into pain management. Then they get addicted to these things. Then they have to have them because it's one of the most highly addictive medications there is. and, they can go to this doctor. Oh, and then they find out because everybody's addicted, well, we're poor, and we need a little extra money. I can sell my buddy down the road a few of my pills to get the water bill paid. Oh, but now I need more for myself, and then they have to go borrow money to buy some more to keep their, and it's like this crazy sick cycle. And now the state's like going, oh, we. You work and you pay your taxes, and there's a little increase in tax, having to go back and forth and haggle and go back and deal, they can take care of their patients and do their jobs exactly right.
There are ways to do it. There have to be, because all these other countries that are so far ahead of us in medical care, they couldn't do it. They managed somehow, but it, as we said, it gets down to the great divide, the division a lot. They just can't agree on anything, and it hurts. It doesn't hurt wealthy people. If you're rich, you can pay for just about anything you need, and may not even need insurance. If you're President Trump, you've probably got money in the bank somewhere that he doesn't even have to worry about insurance.
He probably has insurance and pays a lower premium than people that make half as much as money.
He could probably pay a $100,000 doctor bill without hurting a bit. I want to. I want something interesting that I read, and I couldn't find it this morning. Last night, I just read part of it, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I'll go back to it. And it was an article that was saying that, and we've heard this with regard to the drug addiction and having too many people locked up. President Obama and even the infamous Koch brothers, the billionaires who hated Obama, maybe still do, I don't know, but mostly because of his regulations that affected the oil industry, where they're making their big money. But anyway, the Koch brothers were on board with President Obama's efforts to let some of these people out of jail that were in there for sort of more minor crimes, and ease up on putting people in jail for addictions and go the treatment route. As I understand, he and trying to remember my article, he and the Koch brothers were in lockstep on that, and he did. Many federal prisoners were released. Now, it appears that our new Attorney General from Alabama, Jeff Sessions, is going in the opposite direction. He seems to be a law and order person. Lock them up. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in light of especially, of course, they can run over poor people all day long and get by with it. They do.
It's modern day slavery, though. We're back to the for-profit prison. And you guys, and we're going to talk about common sense here. When prison becomes a corporate business owned by a corporation, what do corporations do? They make money.
Right.
How are they making money off prisons? Well, let's see. And what I really love, and I'm saying that with as much sarcasm as possible, about the for-profit prison, the deal is, if they don't get enough inmates or make enough money off of a state government, they can sue that state government. So what does that mean? It means they need more people in there. Now, how do they make their money? Well, slave labor. You can go on YouTube and look up commercials where these prisons are offering factory jobs that are performed by the prisoners for 50 cents an hour. What we're talking about, we don't have enough jobs in this country or enough manufacturing. Well, just go to prison. You'll work. You'll get a roof over your head. They'll feed you and they'll give you insurance too. Although with that, I don't know how well they feed you or house you or take care of you because they are in it for a business. So the least amount of money they spend on you, the more that they have in their pocket. And Jeff Sessions, let's talk about marijuana. We're talking about the opioid addiction problem. States that have legalized marijuana, and I don't care who you are, by this day and age, if you know anybody that's ever smoked marijuana or anything about it, you know it's about one of the most harmless things there is, especially compared to alcohol, which is perfectly legal. Well, the drugs, you have your hydros and your Xanax and your Zomas. Anything, if you know anything about this stuff, it's kind of ridiculous, especially if you look at the medical benefits that they have discovered about marijuana. But in the states where it's legal, they have generated billions in taxes that they are spending on their infrastructure. Their opioid and prescription medication abuse is just dropping like crazy. Less crime. Well, and there's all these things. But now you go around here and these people, Jeff Sessions, there you go. We're going to lock you up.
Right, and I want to go back and finish that article. I was reading it and got to that part. And I thought, I've got to go back I'm going to go back and make a copy of that. And this morning I looked for it. Of course, I ran out of time. But it'll be interesting. What I was going to say is it'll be interesting to see see how this works out with the Koch brothers now. For some reason, they're on board with we're locking up too many people. And that's the one thing that I kept seeing that they agreed with President Obama on is we have too many people. And worldwide, we do. We've got a much larger percentage of our population in prison than other countries do. And but now, little Jeff Sessions is going to come along and he may be locking horns with the Koch brothers, and that will be interesting. And of course, getting back to Koch brothers, they're at the bottom of my list because they were the ones, Americans for Prosperity, first showed who they were to me. I didn't know who Americans for Prosperity was until January of 2015 when the committee killed in Sure, Tennessee. And they took credit for it. They openly, and they're an arm. They're supported by the Koch brothers. So that's why I keep referring to the infamous Koch brothers.
The infamous Koch
I wish they'd use those billions for doing good.
But I think that's it. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, like you said, with our political system is that the politicians, and of course it's very, very complicated, and we've got all these conflicts all over the world, the Middle East and North Korea and everything else, but I think that the majority of our politicians are very much out of touch with the common man and their constituents. Well, and with that being said,
let's take a break. We'll be back.
Once you try green, you'll find that owning a John Deere tractor is downright affordable. There's never been a better time to get a quality 25 horsepower John Deere E-Series tractor for only $129 a month, and it comes with a 6-year powertrain warranty. Learn more about this rugged, versatile, and reliable John Deere tractor at TryGreenEquipment.com.
Offer ends May 1st, 2017, subject to approved installment credit with John Deere Financial for commercial use only. 20% down payment required. Taxes, freight, setup, and delivery charges could increase monthly payments. Terms, conditions, exclusions, and warranty limitations apply. See dealer for details.
Ultimate Health Chiropractic Services, located right here in Winchester, wants to remind you to stay safe on prom night. Call your local MADD chapter, that's MADD, and ask how you can prevent underage drinking in your community. This prom promise reminder being brought to you by Ultimate Health Chiropractic, located at 1431 South Columbus Street in Winchester.
Sorry.
Give them a call today,
Okay.
967-6308. Elk River Public Utilities is a proud sponsor of
From my-
WCPT's
so you're
coverage of
I
the
think I already
30th
added you
annual
to the
High on the
Yeah, oh
Hog
yeah, you're on
Barbecue
mine. Do you
Cook-Off
want me to
Well,
call
no,
you?
this is a different
going on
account.
from
Swanee
April
got
18th
interview.
through
Oh,
April
okay. Well, then just,
22nd
yeah,
in
text me on
Winchester
or
City
do me
I
on
already
Park.
sent you a
All
contact.
presented by
Oh,
the
okay.
Franklin
Hey,
County
because if you're
Kiwanis Club
HF State,
and the
Yeah, I
City
am.
of
let's see what's
Winchester.
there.
Don't forget to check out the Primetime Amusements Carnival, opening at 5 p.m. Tuesday through Friday, and opening at noon on Saturday.
Gotta get the kids up and get going to own this day.
I'm
Backpacks,
recording
check.
this radio
Lunches,
show.
check.
That's
Kids,
cool.
check. And we're out the door, in the car, and on the way. First stop, second stop,
The
and
Franklin
my
County
turn.
Democratic Party has
My
a
time for
radio show.
McDonald's.
And not many,
That's
not
why
many
we have the
people
Everyday
catch
Value
it
menu.
on
Every
in the
morning can
morning.
have
So
value,
I'm
with
just
things starting at just
recording it
$1, like
and
a sausage
putting it
biscuit or
on so that,
burrito,
you know,
or any size brewed McCafe coffee. And for a little more, get a sausage McMuffin for just $1.19.
Okay, so
Find
let
your
me-
value every
You
day,
got it?
all day at
Yeah.
McDonald's.
Okay, let me
Prices and
call you.
participation
Okay.
may vary. Limited time offer.
Introducing McDonald's Minute Maid Slushie. Refreshingly cold ice. Delicious flavors. Chilling out together. Try the new Minute Maid Slushie only at participating McDonald's in 3 refreshing flavors. One sip will make you say,
Cherry limeade, fruit punch, or orangeade. Get a medium for just $1.50. Which cool are you? Prices and participation may vary. Limited time offer.
And we're back. Talking to the ladies this week. Get started.
I want to mention something that Helen Stapleton sent me. Helen is our Democratic Party, Franklin County Democratic Party secretary, and on April the 1st, we did our every 2-year biannual reorganization, elected officers, and we call them now executive committee members. These are people, a certain number of people from each voting district who, when we meet, they are our, quote, Democratic Party governing body. And we've got some vacancies from some of the districts that if you'd like to be on this executive committee, Democratic Executive Committee, of course, what we did is selected these folks from the people that were there on April the 1st, and you might not have been able to attend. But anyway, in the 3rd district, let me go back to the 1st. The 1st district, folks who voted the annex, we need 2 more people. We could use 2 more people. So if you voted the annex and you're a Democrat, now you do have to sign a pledge that you are a Democrat to serve on this committee. We could use 2 people there. The 3rd third district, people that vote at Broadview or Hotland Community Center or Walnut Grove, we got a couple of slots there. Then over 6th district, that's Alto Oak Grove, Capitol Hill Community Center, UTSI. We have several slots there. So if you vote in those districts, call us up. 7th district, that is North Lake and Center Road. We have a couple of slots there. So if you're a Democrat and you'd like to be a part of our Democratic Executive Committee, call me, 962-4982, and we'll try to get you hooked up. And I want to mention on party matters, I hope you've picked up on, Mindy and I feel very strongly that if you're a low-income person, you need to be supporting Democrats. Democrats in public office will be voting for your interest. And just watch, for instance, the famous road tax bill that they're working on now in the Tennessee legislature. Governor Haslam had in there from the beginning, and it's probably still in there because, after all, the Republicans are in the majority up there. Not only funding to try to take care of our road situation, but tax breaks for business, big business, franchise tax breaks. And there was another one that had to do with
Interviewing
business,
what, a professor?
excise tax, I believe.
Oh,
And,
probably to replace
I
one.
noticed just last night in a write-up on this road tax, they've added in, somebody's
He's
added
retiring, yeah.
in, aid to veterans on their property taxes.
Well, this is
Of
his
course, what
last
they
semester.
did, the Republicans, about 2 or 3 years
I never know
ago,
where to look
greatly
when I'm
reduced
typing with
the
somebody.
property
I never
tax
know where to
rebate
put my
that some
eyes.
veterans would have when they paid their property taxes. They've restored
Yeah.
some of it, and what they do is get pats on the back when they do this restoring, and don't let people know up front that, well,
Okay, no problem.
that's just,
Bye.
they're just putting back in part of what they took away. So they're not doing as great a thing for the veterans as it probably looks like, because they took benefits away. But in the paper, well, this is Tuesday. This is today's Tennessee, and there's an article on 2B. Republicans are avoiding town halls. They're sweating this thing. It says Republicans who are vulnerable in competitive congressional districts are ducking town hall meetings this spring because of a backlash against their efforts to repeal Obamacare, according to a USA Today analysis. It's finally being made public by these indivisible groups, the protest groups, which are getting higher and higher in numbers. There's one in the Swanee area.
Yes, the Swanee, the Organize and Act, and they're not even directly party related. I kind of was impressed with that because I went to one of their events. It was sort of more like, whatever it is, we're going to pay attention.
I'll call you right back.
And we're getting back to the healthcare, because this was one thing I did want to talk about, and I've heard Helen mention it as from the viewpoint of her mother-in-law who worked in the VA. The one thing that I think bothers me more than anything is the hoodwinking by the Republican Party in regards to veteran affairs. They have voted against any increases in the VA, any type of aid that has been presented to our veterans. And I think if anything that people need to do when they read something and they think it's outrageous and they get upset about it, research it. Research the actual legislation and see where or how the congressman or the whoever that you voted for, how they voted for these bills and legislation. I know because everyone, both sides, really gets upset about veterans' benefits or their lack of benefits, and God knows we keep creating veterans. But in all actuality, it is the Republican Party that votes against any increases whatsoever, and they are the ones that are causing the VAs to fail because they refuse the funding for additional doctors and nurses to provide the accurate care. And if you go to the VA and you say, well, I had to wait forever, or they were rude to me, I don't know if you've ever worked in a job where you're completely short-staffed, but it's real. You can lose your patience very quickly. And so, yes.
Along the lines that Mindy is speaking, something else I wanted to say is with regard to Republicans and the Democrats. If you're discouraged because the Democrats appear to be down and out and outnumbered, and we are grossly outnumbered in Nashville and Washington also as far as our representatives, but it's looking better. For one thing, these groups, and even if you're not a Democrat, you don't want to call yourself a Democrat, seriously consider when you go to the polls, vote for a Democrat. Now, if you're wealthy, if you're a billionaire, if you're one of the 1%, well, you'll probably be better off voting for a Republican because they will take care of you as if you needed taken care of. The latest news that's encouraging to Democrats to me is in Kansas they just had a race that President Trump won bigly in the presidential election, and in this race that occurred just this week, a Republican won, but by a much smaller margin. Telling you that Democrats are making inroads in the Georgia seat coming up. Commissioner Tom Price, that's now our Health and Human Services commissioner. Not sure he's head of it. Anyway, they're slugging it out, a Democrat and a Republican in Georgia over his seat. And it is said that Republicans are paying big money to try to get their man elected.
Well, and when we talk about regular people, and we talk about Republicans, and we talk about Democrats, and we talk about caring about regular people, I will go back to Flint, Michigan, where they still do not have clean drinking water, and hundreds of children are suffering from lead poisoning, which will be eventual, brain damage and all kinds of things. And all of these people, that was a Republican government, and people go, oh, it's Detroit or whatever. Once again, we'll go back all the way to the top to big banks, and the reason that Detroit failed had very little to do with anything other than bad loans. And when we have corporations and the banks taking advantage of not only the people, but the local governments. And there was a great article on, was it odious loans? I'm trying to think. But yes, a lot of our governments are going broke because of really bad balloon-style loans, the same way that people lost their houses. That's what happened in Detroit. But Flint, Michigan does not have clean drinking water because they cut corners and did not care about those people. Who was it? It was a Republican administration, which will receive zero. And, we have all this money for FEMA and everything else. They're not getting help. But I guess my question to you, when is it going to happen to you? When is it going to come right here to Franklin County?
Well, and it boils down to, and I find it hard to understand what they call ideologues. They have, in fact, dealing with our legislators on the Affordable Care Act, on Insure Tennessee. We tried so hard to talk them into. They would, with a straight face, would sit there and look you right in the eye. And I'm talking about our Republican representatives. And I'll say that Representative Alexander did not say this directly to me. When I asked him why people were against it, he said, well, it's taking this federal money, it's big government, and this. And you can explain to them, people are dying, people are suffering and dying because they don't have insurance. But they'll come back to you with some sort of an ideologue. Oh, we can't take this federal money, it's big government, or it's some... Democrats don't do that. I don't know of an ideologue that Democrats have except help people make government work for everybody, equal opportunities for everybody. And I encourage you, if you care for our fellow men out there, our fellow citizens that are low income, sick, middle class, vote Democratic.
Actually, it's kind of funny. You realize that I've been an independent up until this past election. It's kind of funny. I never really wanted to join a party. But that was it. The more research that I did and the more that just the ideas that I see. And I do believe that people should be responsible. I think that they should be also given the opportunity. I think that's more than anything when people say, well, people don't want to work or, they're just looking for a handout. I don't believe that's true. I think that people want to feel like they actually have a good opportunity to make a decent living, and making a decent living isn't really that much.
Well, and when you try to penalize someone because, well, he's just lazy, he just don't, other people suffer. There are other family members in that family that suffer, and that attitude. When I was circuit court clerk, and for which I appreciate so much, for 24 years, and I was able to operate. I was a Democrat, and still am. Had to go with the law, which that wasn't too hard. Sometimes it was hard to figure out what I was supposed to do, but I'd figure out what I was supposed to legally do. Then when it came to dealing with with people, and I'd have people with opposite interests sometimes to deal with, I would think of my Sunday school teachers of years ago at Marble Plains Methodist Church then, what would Jesus do?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
That'll settle it for you. If you can get serious and think, what would Jesus do
If a
in
man
this
asks you for
situation?
his, your coat, you give him that, and your sandals too, if he needs it.
And
Right?
and how
Hey,
people
sorry.
could. Everybody
do you wanna
might
come
not
get him
want to
on
do
the
that,
way?
but that's what I did. That's what I was taught from a little girl.
What
and I've
happened?
never
Okay. What happened
forgotten
was
it.
I was
And
late.
it
and
will
got
to
take
know
Thomas
that
to
you
school, and he
have
was
done
out in the
something
yard
to help
for
somebody out there. It will give you a
but yeah, I
lot
would
better
love it.
feeling than saying, "Well,
sounds
I
good.
protected
All
our
right.
ideologue of no big government, destroy government, government's bad." That's a bad ideologue, actually. Vote Democratic.
All right, ladies. Well, we're out of time, but we'll be seeing y'all back, I think, around the 27th.
Right.
27.
Thank you.
So if you would like to talk to Miss Nancy about some of the things that she's been talking about this morning, then feel free to give her a call.
962-4982.
All right. We are WCDT, AM 1340 on your AM dial, W295 AV, FM 106.9, right here in Winchester, Tennessee. Get out and enjoy this absolutely gorgeous day. It's 9 o'clock.